and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Patterson, and as always, we're joined by Ethan Daffy. And of course, today we are previewing Carlton v Melbourne at the MCG round 22. There is 3 more rounds left in the AFL home and away season, which is insane to think about. Saturday, 7:25 p.m, and as I just said at the MCG, finals type game. And as you just commented then, Daffy Boy haven't beat them for 7 years, which is pretty insane to actually wrap your head around. But how are you, mate? First things first.
No, I'm good, mate. It's always an interesting battle against the Demons. I think the last 5 have lost 3 by under a goal. So, and obviously last year's disaster result, and we won't touch on that too much today. But yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm still a little bit annoyed that we've just got these outs. That is not, obviously we've been winning with these outs, but it's just that potential to have that game right this weekend would be superb if everyone was playing. And for both teams especially, you know what I mean? I feel like we're both probably the 2 informed teams in the comp for sure. We're on a 7 streak and they're on a 5 streak currently, and they're probably pushing for a top 2 spot in the home final, which is crucial, especially with 2 interstate teams in the top 4 as well. So all to play for both teams. Usually at this end of the year, Melbourne might have finals locked away, but similar to last year when Cozzy kicked the goal, obviously that locked him in for top 4. So there's a lot to play for, and we've still got to get it done. We've still got to, there's no guarantees, but the way we're playing, I think it's going to be an absolute cracker.
Yep. Do not remind me of last year's game. Oh God, it just still comes back to bottom in the bottom. But there was just so many moments in that game. I was like, how do we lose that game? And then of course we did the exact same thing the week after against Collingwood, but we're not going to touch on it. No way. We already had enough tears over it, mate. So, but yeah, as you just said, then I think with the teams that if they're both at full strength, you actually spoke to your old man about it earlier. About which side would be better full strength, and that's actually a good question to ask. But yeah, to touch on a pretty crucial player from a Melbourne side of things, it's expected that Clayton Oliver is going to return this week. So, but it's been 12 weeks, like a 12-week hamstring injury, which is like, what do you think about it? It's how unbelievable. It was a hamstring injury, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he did it again. He did it twice. So he did it once, and then he had to, I think he redid it at training or something like that. So that's obviously dragged on, and all the rumors started to come out that there was other stuff going on off field because he was out for so long, because it was such an odd injury, like you said. So no, it's good to see. Like, obviously it's annoying this week he's coming back, but it's good to see a champion of the game come back in a really good side.
Yeah, well said. Like, that's also one thing that you kind of want to see, is you always want to see the best players in the game. But it was quite funny to see his interview. I don't know if the viewers have seen it. I know you've seen it, Daffy Boy, but the viewers and the listeners, make sure to check out Clayton Oliver's press conference. I think it was just before his. I think it was just after the main training session. I was saying it was yesterday or the day before, and the journalist didn't ask the greatest questions of all time. And it was quite funny with the way that he acted, I guess, and so some of the looks that he gave the journalist was quite funny. But Daffy Boy, we'll move straight into it. Carlton v Melbourne. Favorite moment v the Demons?
Yeah, well, like we said, we haven't beaten them in fucking ages. So obviously we've got a few different memories through the years. Not too many, but one particular memory, I think it was 2011. I think we were going pretty well. No, it wasn't. No, it was 2013. And we were on a roll near the end of the year when we were pushing for finals. I think we usually play them late in the year, which is every year we play them late in the year. And obviously the last couple we've versed them a couple of times. But it was 2013. We're up by probably 10 goals. Every year, obviously, I go to the Carlton Melbourne game, the old fella. D's weren't great at the time, so we put on a bit of a show, and pissing down rain. I was still sitting in the front row with me poncho on, watching the Mighty Blues play like a dickhead out the front. But Eddie took a mark. I think the siren went, and he launches this torpedo.
You're on your own there.
Thanks for the backup.
we were nodding.
Well, that's good on telly. Here comes Betts.
Oh.
Betts.
2 goals. 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 2 goals.
Betts has got onto it. Oh, the icing on the cake. He's got 4.
Obviously, Eddie was one of my heroes when I was about 10, 11 years old. So it was a good moment. I always remember it pretty clearly. And obviously I got on TV. I was right behind his celebration, which was a very funny moment. But like I said, there hasn't been too many really, has there? Apart from maybe the 2015 and 16 games.
I know, like, you might not want it on Baggers Chat, but I don't care. I don't care about if you don't want the photo on Baggers Chat. You need to send me that photo. I've said it before. But you need to send me it once again because I'll put it on this episode. But just so the viewers can see how excited you were. But I love that moment. There isn't too many great moments against the Demons, is there? I mean, especially in our lifetime. We posted a thing through the day about, I guess, just wanting to ask the followers on Instagram, just asking about what your favorite moments are. Some people said Icon Park, with, of course, Icon Park, Princess Park back then, but of course Icon Park now. Carlton v Melbourne, which is a historic moment. But my moment is 2015, I believe, Matt Cruz's goal.
It's time to Jamison. He just cruises away from a couple of demons, then runs into Harms. Somehow got it to Cripps to Cruiser to 50. Cruiser, he's gone all the way. He's had a big afternoon already. He's got 3.
Yes,
Matt Cruz's goal, and it was Paddy Cripps when he was there. When it was I think it was his second year. Obviously, It was 2015. It just handball, he gets straight through the Cruiser, and he's a freak of nature. And I just wish that if he got his body right a little bit more than he actually did, who knows? He could have been. I mean, he was alone a very good ruckman, but who knows what he could have been if he didn't get injured and if it wasn't for injuries. But
and I feel like with Cruz, I feel like he was the best match ruckman against Max Gawn. I feel like he beat him every single time. And I feel like Max, they're both those, rucks that can do a bit more than the average ruck. And I feel like every time we matched up against them, that he'd always, beat him. Like he always beat him, and other ruckmen tend to struggle against Max. So it was always that. It was weird. It was just like he'd always match up extremely well against Max, and Max would tend to struggle.
Yeah, well, it's actually a good point, and because that just shows how big of a threat Cruiser was. And I don't know if it was 2015. It was either 2015, 16, or 17, and he was in, I guess, like he was in the conversation for All Australian ruckman. It just shows how good he is. Sorry, but now we'll move on to the potential inclusions. So, of course, there's a few updates, I guess, with the injuries, and of course, we'll touch on our ins and outs. But to just very quickly just go through the injuries, Daff. So I'll actually go through the full injury list because I had it up before. So, I'll very quickly fly through them. So Adam Chera hamstring injury, 1 to 2 weeks. Corey Durden is a test this week after his shoulder injury. Matt Kennedy is 2 to 4 weeks away from a knee. Harry Mackay is 3 to 5 weeks away with his knee injury. Mitch McGovern, 1 to 2 weeks with a hamstring injury. Jack Silvani is 2 to 4 weeks as well. And the most important one, probably out of those, I guess, 5 or 6 names, arguably, is Sam Walsh, and he's still 1 to 2 weeks away. So, my question to you, Daff, before you touch on some injuries as well. Also, Jordan Boyd is available this week. His suspension ends. So, whether that's a person that you'll bring in, Daff. Out of those names, I guess if, say, a Walsh or a Chera or a Gov who are expected to be back in the next 1 or 2 weeks, if they were to be fit this week, would you want to see them back this week, or would you rather just say have another week to get yourself 100% right for Gold Coast and Giants for the last 2 games?
Yeah, no, it's a tough one. I think if they were fit, they'd be playing. I don't think we have the time and the, I don't know, we don't have that much safety to just rest players. I know the system's holding up really well, but obviously they're giving him another week. I think Walsh's is pretty much around 2 to 3, same as Chera's, and obviously Gov's is in a similar boat. So Yeah, it's frustrating once again with these injuries. We're really the most unlucky team currently. Collingwood are having a talk about a couple of injuries with Dacos and the Aldi version of Darcy Moore and Murphy. So no, it's interesting, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating, but hopefully we can get the job done in the next few weeks and these guys come back, because if these guys come back and we play an elimination final, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Holy shit balls. It'll be going off. And then obviously Boydie coming back from his rubbish suspension of 3 weeks. Probably not allowed to tackle people anymore. So, but no, that'll be interesting. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about Boydie this week. I don't know.
And with that, the question about Boyd and you being a little bit unsure if you'll bring him back in, is that because of Zach Fisher and how well he performed last week in that, I guess, Boyd role?
Yes. I think you can't. Well, I'll touch on it in my ins and outs, but yeah, no, I think it's definitely. I don't know if he's ahead of him, but it's tough to drop a guy after that type of performance, and I feel like he's like an asset with ball in hand in our back half. Just another kind of. He doesn't have to take on the best small forward or anything defensively, but that's a one key reason why I don't think Fish will be there forever down back, but. It'll be interesting to see how we work it, because if he doesn't have to play on the best small forward, he plays on their sixth best forward, he can just run off a little bit. But against a side like Melbourne that bat, 6-7 deep in their forward line in terms of small forwards, it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. And I really back him in.
Yep. So one more question, one more comment, sorry, before we move into the ins and outs. So, of course, as you mentioned in the review episode for Saints game, you were right about Brody Kemp, and I guess there is an update. And it seemed like it was only cramp. That's what kind of, there hasn't been a lot come out of the club, but I know that there's been some news around it, and it seems like that it was just cramp. Obviously we've seen some injuries in the past 4 weeks, probably the month, with injuries, hamstring injuries in particular. As soon as we see a player hold high on his leg, we're like, shit, we've got another injury. And so you were absolutely spot on with that, with Brody Kemp. And it seemed like only cramp. I think that's what you thought in the review episode as well. So I don't know if you're just a secret journalist, mate, or you're just very, very, very knowledgeable with the injuries, of course. But it's good to see Brody Kemp. I guess, we don't know for sure, but it seems like, I think if it was anything more serious, we'd probably know by now. But we'll now move on to the ins and outs, Staff. Who are you bringing in and who are you bringing out?
I don't have any.
Nice.
Don't have any. I think this will be the first unchanged side of the year, I'd imagine. I think so. I think we talked about it a while ago that we hadn't had an unchanged side since some stupid time and year. But yeah, no ins and outs for mine. Remain consistent. Obviously, it's a shame that we can't have these guys come in, these guys on the injury list. But I really like the way our side kind of was built on the weekend, and obviously with Fish in the back half, which that could really resurrect his career, and might make him stay at the club, which I think he will. But be interesting watch again. Yeah.
So the question about that, because I know in the review episode you were speaking about the ruck contest, the ruck combination with TDK and Mark Pitnet, and potentially bringing back Lewis Young as that second ruck, because you were, I know with me, I'm just about over the combination with TDK and Pitnet. I don't think it works enough. If there was one person that could go forward and impact the scoreboard, different story, but neither of them can do that. They're both genuine rucks, and I don't think that can ever be a combination. And of course, if we are down to our very last leg and we need to just get players out in the park and be a tall forward line, of course you would play TDK and Pitnet. But with Lewis Young potentially coming in as a second ruck, is there, I guess, a change with that? Are you happy with Pitnet and TDK once again for one more week, or until Silvani hopefully is fit to come back into the side?
Yeah, I think, it's an always a bloody hard topic. I think Tommy will become a guy who can play forward. I think he just needs a little bit of time, but he just needs some, I don't know, he just needs a game where he does kick a bag or something like that, where he goes up forward. But it's more about Pitternet for me. I just don't think he does enough around the ground, and he's a really frustrating footballer, because if you watch that first goal from the Saints on the weekend, it was Rowan Marshall where they ran from the wing and he ran forward and Pitto couldn't keep up with him and let him go and take an easy grab. So any people watch it, any people listening to that right now, just quickly watch that. Just watch Pitternet and Rowan Marshall from the wing, and you just see how that goal unfolds, and that just kind of tells the story about Pitto. But I think they'll both play again. Obviously, I've got an unchanged side. I just think with Pitto's size, I think he can, I guess he can minimise, Gawn's impact in the ruck. I think that's what we're trying to go for with Pitto. He can win his own as well. So it'll be an interesting one. Gawn's obviously in fucking almost career best form again, which is frustrating. But and then obviously they've got to bring in a forward. They've got to bring in a forward, whether it's Brodie Grundy, maybe a Josh Shackey, or I don't know. Well, Ben Brown's injured, so it really could be Brodie Grundy, or they go smaller and they just have Max going forward sometimes, and Van Rooyen and Melksham up there, who Melksham always tends to kick a bag against us. So it's always good.
Yep. Don't remind us of your boy Jackie Melksham. He loves kicking some goals. But yeah, after you just spoke, I just think I completely agree with the ins and outs. I think it's, if it's working, don't change it. Like I guess if it's just working, just don't mess around with it. Don't fuck around with it. Just keep it the same. And that's why I think, because I was about to bring in Lewis Young. I literally had Lewis Young in. Pitnet.
Yeah.
So I had Young in for my Pitnet, but I just think now I'm just going to change that, just because I am more worried about, as you said, the Max Gawn and the impact. And I think Pitnet matches quite well against Max Gawn in a ruck sense, in the ruck battle, but around the ground, that's when Gawn can really dominate. And that's my worry. That's my worry. So I think it has to be Pitnet playing and TDK both playing. And I think Brodie Grundy is probably the play to bring back in, because I don't think Josh Shackey would be playing on a Saturday night in front of about 85,000 at the MCG. Don't worry, but we don't know. There's been stranger things happening. Yeah. Have you got a sub written down there?
No, but I think it's either going to be Curnow or Boyd, I think. But I think it'll be Curnow. I think it'll be Curnow, because he can play any role, half forward, half back, middle. But yeah, on Josh Shackey, I think he's actually been pretty hard done by the last month or so. I think he's kicked 4 in like 4 games, the last 4 games or something like that, or 3+ in the last 4 games. So it's an interesting watch that. I think, to be fair, I'd actually bring him in over Grundy. I don't think the Grundy Gawn thing works at all. So, obviously they're two great ruckmen and they should work well together. But I think Gawn's the man. I think he's the man. Take the Demons to another premiership, and hopefully they bring in Grundy, and hopefully a lot of question marks are raised, because same with Oliver. Like, we can talk about Oliver coming back, but what happens if he comes back and he's just not fit enough to play a full quarter game? That can be a positive as well. And they drop a guy like James Harmes, or they drop someone else, and James Jordan or someone who's 100%, and like stuff like that happens. And I think with Max King, I thought he was brought in way too early for the Saints. I think they rushed him in. They could have had a lineup with maybe focusing more on Caminiti playing deeper. It's funny that though. That's why you just got to be careful. You got to be really careful, because when guys miss long periods, not like 2 to 3 weeks, when they miss long periods of footy and they come in to an AFL landscape, like, he's not versing North Melbourne, he's versing Carlton here. So it's going to be interesting. He's a superstar, so he'll probably end up having 48 touches after I've said that. But in terms of just rushing players back, sometimes I don't mind it. But we'll see.
Yeah, well, really well said, Daff. Really well said, because I completely agree. And that's something that we did last year, and we touched on it last episode. Adam Chera bringing him back too early, it's a risk. And we saw it last year with Collingwood, with Carlton Collingwood in the last round. George Stewart was one of those players that, like, we might bring him back in. He wasn't in the VFL list, so we were like, oh, he might be in, but we just didn't we didn't risk him because we had a guy like Will Setterfield who performed well the week before, play him because he's 100%. And it really is down to these final moments in the season. This stuff matters because do you want to risk Clayton Oliver and who knows, he might get another hamstring ping and he's out for the rest of the season, including finals.
Yep.
So it's questions about that, whether you do that, whether you take the risk now because it's such a big game for both sides, us for, I guess, our finals chance, but also Melbourne for their top 4, top 2 chance to get a home final. But do you risk players like that? As you said, they've got a James Jordan, they've got a Tom Sparrow in there as well, who's playing some really good football, who's on that kind of fringe, I guess, players in the midfield that if Clayton Oliver was to come back in, he's one of those players that isn't an absolute lock in the best 22. But I think it's just guys like that where it's going to be really interesting because you don't know what's going to happen. And we know how great a guy like Clayton Oliver is. But yeah, my sub, I'm going the other way. And it's going to be Jordan Boyd. So I think Jordan Boyd will be, because I wouldn't mind, say, if it's the third quarter, 3/4 time, and we need some run, or we just need I guess a fresh sort of body. I know he's been out for very weeks, but he's been suspended, so it's not like he's coming back from an injury. And I wouldn't mind seeing Boyd in there. But also I do like Ed Kerno because who knows, a guy like Petrarca might be dominating, or a guy who's half forward or half back might be playing well, and you put Ed Kerno straight to him. So, but yeah, it worries me because if Clary comes back here, they've got Petrarca, and who knows? It might be Petrarca v Paddy Dow in the key matchups.
God.
So we'll move on now. Sorry, viewers. That was a bit of a. I need to keep my cool. So we'll now move on to the ground overview. So as we always do, we touch on the backline, midfield, ruck, and forward line. And we just touch on a key matchup for each line. So we'll touch on the first one, which is as we always do, which is the backline. So Nick Newman, it's a bit of a different, I guess, matchup because usually we go with Jacob Wiedering, but I think Nick Newman has to get some credit. So we've gone with Nick Newman up against Cozzy Pickett. So that's going to be a fantastic matchup. I expect Newman to go to Pickett, but who knows? It might be Melksham because I reckon maybe Sard might go to Pickett speed-wise. But I think you kind of go with your best medium defender up against your kind of best small medium forward, and I reckon that's Cozzy Pickett. So quick question about that, I guess, about if you expect Nick Newman to go to Pickett or if it's going to be a Melksham or someone else in that Melbourne forward line. But also, if you think it's going to be this matchup, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they've got a really unpredictable forward line, obviously, due to not really having that key pillar, that number one key forward. I guess Van Rooyen's probably that now, and he will probably become that in the future, but he's just not there yet. And he's playing good footy, but he's just not that, Charlie Curnow-esque. I think he will be. But, it's an interesting one. Obviously, Newey's... We both know that we love him, and a lot of Carlton supporters love him, and he's having a career best year, and obviously had almost career best game last weekend. So, and he's just locked up players all year, and now he's hurting him the other way, which I think with this matchup is massive. If Pickett isn't on the ball when we turn over the ball, Newman can really hurt the Demons going forward. That's the thing. Like, I feel like guys like Newman and Sard and even Chincona to an extent, I feel like they force their opponents to worry more defensively. You know what I mean? Force them to defend on the other way. Don't be out the back easy. I feel like guys like Melksham and stuff like that are very, offense-based footballers. Obviously, there's a lot of unsung heroes in the Melbourne team in terms of Neil Bullen and all those types of guys, Cade Chandler's, and they've got a lot of forwards. A lot of small forwards that Newman could play on. But I do agree with pace. I'd probably back in Sard on a Pickett and maybe a Newman on a Melksham, but you probably go Kemp to Melksham, I'd imagine so. So it's going to be interesting. They've got a lot of different options. And then if Grundy comes in or a Shackies, there's going to be another key forward. But I just don't think they will bring another key forward in. I think it might be Petty out and Clary in. So... and obviously Tom Sparrow, I think I just checked the injury list. He's a test as well, and he's played every game except 2. So due to injury, and he's a key pillar and obviously a premiership player. So, yeah, he'd be a big in for them. But, yeah, I think our defence can match up against their forward line. I don't think that's going to be our biggest issue.
I think right now Melbourne would love to have a Bailey Fridge back in their lineup.
Yes,
They're really missing a Fridge. Yep. So we know. I mean, I'm checking the list now, and Bailey Fridge is 2 to 3 weeks away from a footy injury, so he'll be back fit and firing for finals footy. But yeah, I think it's well said. Now that you spoke, I think probably Nick Newman's probably going to go to a Melksham, but as you said, then I think Brodie Kemp also is one of those guys because they do have a small forward line if Grundy doesn't come back in. Do have a very small forward line. So I'm going to say Sard to Pickett and Newman to Melksham. That's what I reckon I'll go with. But we'll now move on to the midfield. So usually we go with the inside, I guess, midfield matchup. But now we've gone on the outside, and it's the two genuine wingers, and they're absolutely like they're pretty much. I mean, we know that Melbourne have great wingers on both sides, but we also have pretty good wingers on our side as well. We got 3 actually. We got Cottrell, Ollie Hollands, and this guy, which is of course Blake Acres, up against Ed Langdon. So we could have gone for Lockie Hunter, but we'll go with Ed Langdon. So Acres v Langdon, Daffy Boy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, 2 former Dockers. Obviously 2 former teams. Oh, they might have missed each other. I don't know, but they might have played a year together. I'm not sure, but obviously 2 wingers that they let go, who've gone on to probably better pastures. But yeah, I think we always tend to talk about Langdon when we talk about our wingers. I think we always talk about O'Brien or Cottrell or any other winger we've had. And Ed Langdon, really, really good, really, really, really good winger. And, I tend to go to a lot of Melbourne games, probably too many Melbourne games with the old fella, and watch the way he goes about it. And he just does his thing. And at a really, really high level. Now, that's the thing. It's consistency. There's consistency, but doing it at an extra high level. And obviously helps being in a really good unit and really good system. But yeah, with Acres, I think the form he's in is been great. I think he's been really, really good. I think it's what we expected out of him, bringing him over from the Dockers in the off season. But and also with Lockie Hunter, he's had a superb year. I think he's been under the radar. I think he's the smart footballer. He's a very, very smart footballer, Hunter. He does these little underground kicks where he dribbles it, but people go, what is he doing? But he hits the kick. He goes through arms and arms, and little dribble kicks and little, he finds a way to get the ball forward and in really good areas and dangerous areas, and he kicks his goals. So that's what we're going to be really worried about with both of them. They can kick their goals and hurt you both ways. So that's going to be a big matchup, I think, for Ollie Hollands as well. Another test. I thought he was great last weekend. Obviously, shout out to him for getting the Rising Star, which was probably a little bit overdue, but he's done really well. And obviously, I think Cotters he's been a little bit off. I think the last couple of weeks. I don't think it's been shocking or anything, but I just think he's been a little bit off the mark. But I think this is a game where he can really, really lift and get us over the line in terms of that matchup.
Yeah, I do agree with Cottrell. It's. He's not been shit. He's been so far from shit. Far from shit. I know, like you're saying, you know how good this player is, but players do have this off sort of 2 or 3 weeks, and this is a perfect time for Cottrell to come back this week, I guess, and against one of the great sides of the competition in Melbourne, in front of the Saturday Night Lights at the MCG. Big crowd. It's a big time for a guy like Cottrell to really, come back and really make sure that since Ollie Hollands, and shout out to him as well, I'll say the same thing as you. And it's going to be interesting to see how Ollie Hollands responds to how he's got that, I guess, the accolade of Rising Star. Hopefully he can still keep the consistent football. I'm sure he will. He's an absolute professional, but I think it's going to be interesting because with those 2 wingers, maybe it doesn't work with 3 of them playing, because I don't know if Cottrell is a half forward, he's more of a winger. But don't know if Hollands is going to be a half forward or if he's going to be a winger. We don't know. But yeah, I think it's going to be a big match for Matt Cottrell this week. But now we'll move on to the ruck contest, which is, of course, we were about to go with Pitnet and Gorn, but I think we'll just go with the absolute lock this week, which is, of course, TDK Tom De Koning up against a big threat, the Melbourne skipper, Max Gawn. So, Daff, what are your initial thoughts, I guess, with Tom De Koning up against Max Gawn?
I think Tommy's had a great, 5-6 weeks of footy. I think he's really stepped up. Obviously signed his deal and looks like he's really set in his Carlton system. And another test for him. Obviously had a great matchup against Rowan Marshall. I think Rowan Marshall's severely underrated in this competition. I think he's St Kilda's most important player. He definitely was on the weekend. I thought he was their best by a mile. And, Max Gawn, you got to give him his credit. He's a 1,000-time All-Australian ruckman. He's a premiership captain. He's their guy. You could talk about all their players. He's the man. He is the man. Obviously you got Petraka as well. He can be the guy as well. But I feel like when Max is on, the Demons are really flying. And, obviously the way he's been playing the last few weeks, especially that game against Richmond where he played the whole last quarter and had 15 touches and 8 clearances in a quarter, which is crazy. It's like another midfielder, which is going to be interesting with that midfield we have and the midfield they will have. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a really, really tough battle. And if we can just halve it, I think with like Teddy K, if he can just halve it for most of the night, it's going to be pretty hard to. But just don't let him impact forward. Don't let him kick his goals and get him up and about. You know what I mean? Just cut him down. And I feel like, we've been saying this. I think our aerial ability has just been a little bit off the last probably 3 weeks. 4 weeks probably since Harry's gone down. We just don't have that option going high half forward. Obviously, we've got Charlie if he pushes up and maybe a Jack Martin on occasion, but we just don't have that outlet. You know what I mean? We get it into a pack. We just can't take him. Like on the weekend, it was just annoying. Even the Collingwood game, at a D50, it goes long near the wing and there's a pack and you just know we're not going to mark it. It's just frustrating. It's really, really frustrating, but massive for TDK. And obviously Pitto's just got to do his thing and hurt the bloke. Not in a bad way, but just get into him. Bit of body work. We know he can do that and, just chirp a little bit. Get a bit of chirp involved. We're a good side. We can be chirpy, a little bit chirpy, and be confident because with this side, I'm confident we can get the job done, and especially Teddy K. I think if he wants to become an A grade ruckman, he's going to have to beat one of these guys sometime.
I mean, I wouldn't mind pitting it, just hearing from the sidelines, just hearing a bit of strength, but who knows? But I guess the question from a Melbourne point of view, I know last week Van Ruin was actually playing as that second ruck against North Melbourne. Do you see the same thing happening from their point of view?
Yeah, I think so. Unless they bring in Grundy, which I don't think they will. I got a feeling they won't. But I feel like they've worked out their mix because I think the last 5 weeks since he has been in the twos, I think they've worked that well. And Van Rooyen, he goes all right in the ruck as a second ruck. But if we do have the 2 ruckmen, and once a TDK is against a Van Rooyen, then you can really test and see how Van Rooyen can match up because he goes all right around the ground as well. So he's kind of that perfect second ruck in my opinion. He's definitely tall enough and big enough. A bit like Sauce, he can play that forward role, and obviously he's a better forward than Sauce, probably because he's going to be a superstar of the Melbourne Football Club. But he can definitely be a good pinch hit ruck. Yeah,
well, he plays a lot like Silvani. That's probably that's a player that when I actually saw Van Rooyen, I'm like. He's probably a lot like, as you said, I think his forward craft is a lot better than what a Silvani is. It's just because Van Rooyen's probably been that key forward through, I guess, the NAB championships, all that, through junior footy. He's always been that player. So the forward craft is always going to be better. But yeah, that's probably the player that came straight to mind. Okay, so now we'll move on to the forward matchup, which is, of course, Charlie Curnow versus Stephen May. We expect it to be Charlie Curnow v. Stephen May, but I'll grab your thoughts, Dr. Boy, on this matchup. But, of course, there's some very, very capable small defenders and also key defenders down there from a Melbourne point of view. How do you see this matchup playing out, but also to touch on some other players from their end?
Yeah, no, they're a very good defensive unit. Obviously, they've got their 2 key pillars in May and Lever, but also they've got other guys, Trent Rivers, Judd McVee, who's had a great, his second year. He played VFL last year for Casey, obviously, but this is proper. Obviously, he's made his debut this year. He's been very, very solid, and I think he'll pick up a Jack Martin or something like that, just due to his height and pace. But yeah, they got so many. They got a lot of guys running through there. Obviously, Brayshaw sometimes runs through there as well. Like they've got, I reckon, very similar to us in terms of they've got guys who can hurt, forwards on the other way, working the other way. So I think if we don't, defend, well enough up the ground and in transition, they can really hurt us straight through the middle of the ground. That's the way they do it. That's the way they do it when they get going. Yeah, Rivers, he's that guy who breaks the lines. And obviously they've got guys in the twos that are always a chance, like Michael Hibbard and stuff like that, who is very solid as well. But yeah, with Kerno v May, I think for me, it's just we've got to find a way for Charlie to, impact, not his fault at all, but just to take away that double team. Because that's what happened all last week. It was a double team, triple team every single time. People said, Wilkie kept him to one goal. But realistically, it was their whole back six that were playing on him. So it's a matter of that. I thought Charlie was still very solid getting the ball to ground. He worked extremely hard last week and obviously was rewarded with that goal. I thought that's why I was happy about that goal. I think he worked his ass off to get there. So many goal assists. Obviously, that inboard kick to Akers and Owies. But once again, Pato, we said it when we were playing like shit. We didn't get enough out of our small forwards. Now, look at the results when our small forwards are on. Jesse Motlop's, kicked 4-2-2. No, 4-2-2-2, I think. I think he's kicked around 10 or 12 goals since he came back in the Port Adelaide game, which has been phenomenal. He's coming into his own. So he's another threat for them. They're going to have to pick him up. They're going to have to pick him up and get it done. But it's tough. It's so even. We're very even, both these teams. Even with our injuries, obviously, I feel like they've probably got the step ahead on us in terms of personnel, of course, with less injuries. But I think the makeups of our teams, apart from them probably missing that key forward, it's very similar. We're probably both in the top 3 or 4 midfields, definitely, for sure. And I think our defenses hold up really well. So it's gonna be an exciting game, really. It's really, it'll be much better than the last game we played against them where we were both fucking shocking. I think it was 61-44 and we kept them to 61 and lost. So that was where we were at the time. And our defense is still doing the same things, Pato. That hasn't changed. I think it's obviously got a little bit better just due to our impact going forward of the ball. It's been a breath of fresh air this time of the year because we're actually playing attacking footy and really confident in ourselves. And, Demons fans might be going, we beat them last time, blah, blah, blah. But, they weren't too convincing against North Melbourne on Sunday. They weren't too convincing that first half. They were down at halftime. I think they were down by 30 at one stage. There was no wind. Which usually is the case in Tassie, which I made sure of. I was watching the game. I was like, there's no wind. There was teams kicking goals at both ends. So you look at that and you go, Michael Voss is probably going, gee, if they give us a 5-goal lead, we're not going to be able to choke that. Like a not choke, but we're not going to be able to give it up like a North Melbourne will. That easy. They might, edge their way back. But if we get a 5-goal, 6-goal lead, what's been happening in the last 7 weeks. We go on to win the game. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Don't want to jinx myself, but I just feel like they just can't leave the door open. They left the door open for Richmond. They left the door open for Adelaide. They still won the games. And got it done. They left the door open against North. Obviously won it because of the quality. But if they leave the door open against us, the way we've been playing attacking, we've just got to make sure we do that. If they leave that little door ajar, it's 3/4 time and we're up 24 points, 20 points. We just can't let that edge, that point edge get ahead. But mate, it's exciting. Stephen May, Lever, Charlie Curnow, Jackie Martin, who I think always plays well against the Demons. So it's exciting times, Pato. It's good to be playing these games against Melbourne. Usually we'll both, bottom of the ladder during our whole lifetime, and it's good to see another team, playing good footy after a world of hurt, years of hurt as well.
Yeah, I think the pressure is also a little bit. I mean, I don't want to jinx myself because who knows, round 24, Carlton v Giants, it might be seasonal line for both teams. But I think the pressure is a little bit off us now, where we can kind of mathematically every team outside the 8 is they are now a mathematical chance. So we all know what that means. Where in that bracket, there's a bracket where it's we are now very unlikely to not make finals. And I think now it's good because now we can we've kind of got that monkey off the back where we've kind of beaten St Kilda last week. And I'm not saying this at all, where it's not a lock, it's far from it. But now it's going to be very hard for us not to make it now. And now we can kind of go into Carlton v Melbourne. Because if we lost against St Kilda last week, the pressure would have been on this week massively. Yep. And now we can go into just enjoy. And of course, we'll go in as the underdogs, but it's a massive game because you're versing against a red hot Melbourne, as you've mentioned throughout the episode. But the question is about what you said earlier about Charlie Curnow. And so the difference between the game, because you were there for Carlton v St Kilda. So I had a good look against Carlton v Collingwood, and I have a good opinion about that, I guess, because I was at the game and I wasn't at the St Kilda game. So, of course, you would have a better opinion than mine, than I. But what did you see different between Charlie Curnow? Because obviously, I mean, both St Kilda and Collingwood defensive outfits were focused on Charlie Curnow. So what did you see differently from a St Kilda outfit defensively for Charlie Curnow to only kick 1 goal compared to Charlie Curnow's 6 goals the week prior against one of the premier defenders, Darcy Moore, but also against a defensive outfit against Collingwood? What do you think was different between the two games? Because they were both completely different results.
I personally think with Collingwood, with the Collingwood game, I feel like that wasn't their objective to defeat Curnow.
Yeah.
I think it was Kilda's objective 100%.
Okay.
They planned to beat Curnow rather than beat Carl.
Okay.
Simple as that. They could beat Curnow. And Ross Lyon knew he could get the job done the way he was going to set out his defence to get the job done on Curnow. But what didn't he do? He didn't fucking attack. They couldn't attack. They couldn't attack. They couldn't do anything else. They ended up losing the game after beating us by, beating us by 24 points at half time. It's funny that, isn't it? It's such a mix, and both results, obviously, we won by similar-ish margins, but it was so different. Yeah. And I'll tell you now, Charlie Curnow will be licking his lips on Saturday night because he knows Melbourne are an attacking team. They're going to be focusing on him and trying to stop him, but they're not going to be like St Kilda and, just focused on that, because they're going to be looking to go forward, and that's going to be opening out for him big time. And I think it's going to be a big bag for Charlie this weekend. I just feel it. I can just feel it.
And that's the question for Charlie Curnow. So we have the matchup where it's Charlie Curnow versus Stephen May, but in that sense, because Stephen May, if Charlie Curnow and Harry Mackay were both playing this week, May would go straight to Mackay, Lever would go straight to Curnow. So do you think it might be a case where we just minimise Curnow, where you put Lever on Curnow, because at least you know what Lever's going to expect? Because Stephen May, realistically, he hasn't played on a guy like Charlie Curnow before. And usually I'll compare Charlie Curnow to a Jeremy Cameron, as we kind of always do. And if Geelong were versing Melbourne, May would go straight to Hawkins, Lever would go straight to Cameron. So now we don't have Mackay in our lineup. So do you think it will be for the opening bounce? Do you reckon May will go straight to Curnow? Or do you think right now in this point in time, it might just be Lever, you just go straight to Curnow, and maybe May just plays on the rotating ruckman?
I think May would take the rotating ruck if TDK was starting in the forward line. I think if he's starting in the forward line, May would go to him. But I think with May and Lever, obviously great defenders, but both of them tend to drift always off. They always tend to drift off in terms of they're the third man up. It's funny, they're really good, really good. I think they can win their one-on-ones, obviously, when they're on. But I feel like there's something about them that they're not a Wiedering where it's like, even Wiedering can drift off, but Wiedering doesn't do it as often as a May. I think May would rather someone else pick up his man and he goes forward and attacks his next ball, which he's really good at. But I feel like that can be a massive opening for Carlton in terms of if he's given Charlie this much space, enough space, it's like it's going to get to a point where it's like you need to start sticking on him, or we're putting someone else on him, whether it's Tomlinson when he comes in, because who's he going to play on? Like if it's Tomlinson, Lever, and May, well, they're almost too big.
Yep.
And then Joel Smith obviously can play defence. He's initially a defender, but I think he'll play up forward if he's in. It's tough. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because like I said before, we're both very similar similar builds in terms of, really good midfields. And, obviously usually we have a couple key pillars down back and up forward. So it's going to be exciting, Pato, and hopefully we're on the good end of it because I think we can be.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well said about the forward line, I guess. But yeah, I think it's a big thing because you're not sure what they're going to do because, of course, by the look of it, you've got a key forward in Charlie Curnow and, of course, the key back in Stephen May.
Yeah,
straight to Curnow, but May's never played on a guy like Curnow before, and that could be a big red flag. From a Melbourne point of view, where May's usually out lockdown, the lockdown defender, and Charlie Curnow's that agile key forward that can pretty much jump 3 or 4 meters in the air and mark a ball with one hand. He's not like a Harry Mackay. So, but I think we'll move on to our last segment of the night, which is of course the match predictions. So it's I'm laughing at my predictions because a little bit of a sneak peek, but definitely not being biased, Staffy boy. But I need your best on ground, your point of difference, and your winner plus margin.
Yeah, like I said before, I think he's going to be licking his lips after really being he just didn't have any space on the weekend. They were just covering his space, and I think Charlie will be the best on ground. I think he'll kick a bag. He needs a bag. He only kicked one last week. Was passing a few of them off, so I think he'll go, fuck you all. I'm going to kick a couple of goals and win us the game. Hop on me back, and I'm going to take us there. And point of difference, it's always, obviously, I don't have any ins and outs, so it's going to be an interesting one. But I feel like this is going to be the reincarnation, or not, or the reimagination of Zach Fisher. I feel like there's something about him at halfback that I like. And I feel like that if that works, give Voss coach of the fucking year.
Oh, yeah.
Because Vish's career at Carlton was looking grim the way he was playing, obviously form-wise. And he was competent even when he wasn't playing. He was competent when he wasn't playing. And then he plays and everyone loves him. It's funny how the AFL world works. But yeah, I think he'll be the point of difference, knowing that he'll be playing at halfback, because we didn't know. Obviously, he played a bit in the VFL, but maybe they just, trying to get him some confidence behind the ball rather than ahead of the ball. Because I feel like as a forward, it's tougher. If your confidence is down, it's hard. It's easy to get the pill behind the footy and get your hands on it. So that'll be my point of difference. And winner plus margin. Obviously, I picked us by 12 last week, which was close. I think it was a goal off. But winner plus margin, I've got Carlton. We've got Carlton to win. And I think it's going to be that moment where we go, we are in the finals this year and we've got 2 more games that we still need to win, but I think we're going to win it. And it's going to be one of those moments. We've been ticking it off, Pato. We've been ticking it off. And I don't see why we can't do it. Why can't we do it?
Yeah.
Well, that's the question we ask every week. People go, oh, we'll lose. Why can't we win? Why can't we win this game? I think it's going to be a tie one. I think it's going to be it's going to be the opposite of the last time we played them. Because I think that was a terrible game of footy and we were both playing like shit and they somehow won because we were shitter. It was a pull-off. And I think the winner plus margin, it's going to be a blockbuster. It's going to be a high-scoring game. And I think it's going to be the Blues by 3 points with a late goal by Jack Martin.
I knew you were going to say that. All right. I will very quickly just say this to the viewers and the audience. Now, I'm going to say this once again. We do not know.
Right.
We don't know our match predictions.
I don't even know. Yeah. I don't even know my own ones, but sometimes it just pops in my head.
Now, try guess who my best on ground is.
Charlie Curnow. Oh, no.
Try guess who my point of difference is.
Zach Fisher.
So I was thinking on my I was going to go with Matt Cottrell because I reckon he's due for a big game, but I'm loving Zach Fish and the reincarnation that you actually said then that I just it's a big chance for Fish, and who knows, this might be his role. This might be his time to, there's a few injuries, but you can make this role your own. But with a pass margin, you weren't far off from me either. I had Carlton by 6 points. So, I mean, I was very close to picking. I was and I'm not even kidding. To all the, all right. I mean, I always write my match predictions down.
Yeah,
that's what I have.
6, Charlie Curnow and Fish.
Match predictions: BOG, Charlie Curnow, POD, Fish. Winner pass margin by 6. So it's, and I write that. I kind of change it throughout the episode.
Yeah,
and I kind of yeah. But it's just unbelievable. So, but yeah. So I mean, as you said, I think because our match predictions are very similar. I think I don't think I'll add much more to what you said. I just think it's going to be a big game, and I think it's going to be one of those games where you kind of you need a goal late, and someone will kick that goal, and as soon as they kick that goal, everyone will just be like, "We've done it. We've actually done it." Like we have returned to finals football, and it's a big game. It's a massive game. We all know that. But I think the one confident thing that I'm going in with this week is finally we are just a little bit calmer, and we can just go and just enjoy a great game of football, because this is probably the most anticipated game of the season to date, from a Carlton sense, of course, but maybe even the AFL, because it's a big, big game, and it's high stakes, because who knows, if we lose this game, the pressure might start to build back on us if we lose the week after. But also it's big stakes as well from a Melbourne point of view, because if they let this one drop, who knows, that top 4 position might actually come, like we might actually start to take over that. Like, who knows? Like we could beat Gold Coast, and then that Giants game we could win to make the top 4 and make Melbourne drop out. But of course, it's very far away from it. We have to beat Melbourne first. But yeah, it's a great game. I know you're going, aren't you, Daffy boy?
I will be there.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I am working on the game again. I might have to talk to Fox about it and be like, don't put me on any more Carlton games, because I don't think I can work properly. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good that I'm still able to watch the game. But it's an absolute fantastic game to, I guess, kind of preview, because we know how great the crowd will be on the weekend. But I think the next game I can actually go to is Carlton v GWS. So it's the last game of the season. So, well, I mean, hopefully then we will have finals well and truly locked in. But Daffy boy, to wrap up the episode, is there anything else you want to touch on?
Just get it done. Get it done. Get around them. Because that won us the game on the weekend almost. I feel like that vibe down that end of the ground. I was sitting there. I was amongst my people. Carlton people. How comfortable is it when you're around everyone? There's no fucking Saints bastards next to you. There's no Richmond bastards next to you. Whatever. You're sitting there, you're enjoying it. I remember you're high-fiving random blokes, you're hugging random blokes, after a massive goal. That's what sport's all about. That's what being Carlton's all about. And I think if we can get on top, we can really make the MCG our own, because I feel like we'll have probably it's our home game, so I'd imagine we'd have more than them at the game. Obviously, the MCC's majority Melbourne, where I'll be sitting, but I can't wait, mate. I seriously can't wait.
Yep, completely spot on. Well said, well wrapped up, Daffy boy. So, but making sure to all the viewers and listeners out there, make sure to like and subscribe on our channels that we've had that we have on our podcast platforms. Make sure to try and share the love, I guess. We are trying to do 2 episodes every week. And yeah, it's absolute blast previewing, reviewing the episode every single week. But to you, Daffy boy, and to all the blue baggers out there, the baggers.